this is just aging,
Old
I have
age,
old
yeah.
age. And
Yeah.
she's like, I'm not going to be able to cook, to do gardening anymore. And she was saying that she had been coming to the clinic for some time. And she was reaching for her car door one day. And instead of correcting, because usually she had to correct herself, right? She had to like use her left hand instead of her right hand. And then for the first time in like years, she grasped the car door with no pain. And that for her was like shocking.
It's like
wow.
magic.
Yeah, like I didn't think that I could be able to do this again.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, man, that's incredible to be able to give that gift of function back to someone.
Yeah.
Hey, Puma hanging on my neck. The bracelet matches a set. My brother name is Tina Dollar. Stop all that back and forth over the net.
Welcome to the 6th episode of Sounds Good Enough. Today I have a friend of mine that used to bully me quite a lot when we were still in varsity. So today I'm going to put him under pressure for the very first time. His name is Mufudzi.
Mm-hmm.
And for the people who are watching, I would like to know, who is Mufudzi?
Mm-hmm. Who am I?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Musa, first of all, for having me on the show. I think it's really cool to be able to have this conversation and everyone else kind of listening in. So I'm Mufudzi. I'm Musa's friend. I'm from Zimbabwe. I live in Botswana. I studied in South Africa, which is where I got to hang out with Musa quite a bit in Durban. I'm a recently married man to the amazing, beautiful Murungwa, which is my wife. He was actually part of my bridal team last year in November, which is really, it was really special to have that full circle moment. And then also, I guess, professionally, I am a chiropractor. I work with a few organizations that maybe we're going to get to talk about today. That's more or less me. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I said, he says he's my friend, but I don't know where he gets that from. No, but jokes aside, he's a really good friend of mine.
Sure.
So I had to get him. So he said he's coming to SA. I was like, nah, I need to get him on the episode. And he also we used to, when I was still in varsity, we used to sleep in these beds where you'll get back pains every 3 days.
Okay.
He used to help me out with that. He's a chiropractor. So what actually got you into
chiropractic at the beginning? So crazy story. I was in Harare and I wanted to, like the year between varsity and high school, the year I took a gap year. And it basically, what I wanted to do was do medicine, the typical medicine that we know. And I got to actually volunteer at a chiropractic clinic. So the doctor that I wanted to mentor me, he was busy and he actually didn't have any space in his clinic for someone to observe. So there was this group of chiropractors from the States that were in Harare, and they were basically running this really cool clinic. And I had never heard of chiropractic before. Yeah. And I was on my way to med school. Literally, I was applying to universities and I got into a few. And basically the idea was just come and, spend your afternoons there or something. It wasn't even a big deal. It was like just volunteering, spending maybe a couple of days a week there. And truly speaking, when I saw what was happening, like it was quite something quite unlike anything I'd seen before. It was something where people would come in literally one way and leave another. People who maybe they had thought, I remember the one story that blew my mind. An old lady had like lost function in her right hand, and she was like, in her 60s, and she maybe was thinking to herself, this is just aging, I have old age. And she's like, I'm not going to be able to cook, to do gardening anymore. And she was saying that she had been coming to the clinic for some time, and she was reaching for her car door one day. And instead of correcting, because usually she had to correct herself, right? She had to like use her left hand instead of her right hand. And then for the first time in like years, she grasped the car door with no pain. And that for her was like shocking.
It's like wow. Magic.
Yeah, like I didn't think that I could be able to do this again.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, man, that's incredible to be able to give that gift of function back to someone.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think from the testimonies of patients in that clinic, I think that just, won me over, sealed the deal. And then I decided, nah, man, I want to go study this thing. So
you wanted to be part of that miracle.
Well, I think for me, it was almost like a confirmation of what I already felt like I wanted to do. You know, when something resonates with you and you're like, you didn't know that it resonated with you. Like you see it and you're like, oh, that's what I've been looking for.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like. Yeah.
So earlier on, I spoke about, when in varsity, obviously the varsity beds weren't as comfortable, right? And you'd feel the pain after sleep, especially if you sleep for too long. I think we'd sleep for like 3-4 hours, you'll be fine. But more than that, and I used to have like these like back pains to some extent. And I'll come to you and you'll help me out with that.
Yeah.
Just because I didn't understand it properly back then. And I think a lot of people don't understand. They think that it's kind of like massaging people.
Okay.
So what is the difference between like chiropractors and like
massage therapists or physiotherapists or anyone else? Yeah, that's a good question. Okay. I'll try to make this as simple as possible. Basically, we are health professionals that are trained to be able to identify and diagnose a whole range of different conditions. But our main treatment focus is what we call the musculoskeletal system, with a very strong focus on spinal disorders. Basically, muscles, bones, joints, nerves. The very kind of broad way of looking at it. The way we address these issues isn't really just, for example, like on the superficial level, deal with the pain. We're trying to kind of figure out the problem in terms of like the whole system. Like what has led you to have this pain? How can we deal with this pain? How can we prevent it from coming back? And it's something more of like, if you think about it as there's a way to fix something on the superficial level, and then there's a way to fix something from like a holistic level. So for back pain, it's one of those things that people can encounter. Like, let's randomly, you sit down funny, then you have some back pain and it can resolve. A lot of that kind of back pain can resolve on its own. But for example, in my clinic, a lot of people that I see are doing jobs like, let's say, for example, domestic workers that are bending for a long time.
Yeah.
And you're asking yourself like, okay, hour after hour after hour after hour of doing that kind of job. And you now have some severe back pain that's keeping you from being able to kind of bend at all. That's the kind of patient that you really see the difference between night and day between, okay, this is not just a random person like touching your back. If we can structurally like resolve that kind of pain, you would need a healthcare professional such as a chiropractor to make that difference. So if you're looking from the outside, yes, we all physically touch the body. But I guess the difference is that I'm not just trying to kind of rub you a little bit on the surface to like, oh, hope you feel better. But it's to literally structurally make sure everything's functioning as best as we can, if that makes sense. Yeah, that's more or less what we do.
So is it like acupuncture? Do you also, what is it? What do you actually do?
What do I actually do? Yeah. Okay. So the way to think about this is the body has that the musculoskeletal system has many structures and then we call it the anatomy, right? So you've got the joints, you've got the ligaments, you've got the nerves, you've got the muscles. You've got all these things that are kind of working into play, allowing you to kind of work and function as you are. And my role as a chiropractor is to make sure that all those things are functioning well, whether it is resolving serious muscle tension or if there's some joints that are not kind of moving as well as they could, kind of realigning or working on those joints to allow them to function better. And essentially what I'm trying to do is think of this as a whole system, as opposed to think of it like a little bit of pain on one particular spot. You're asking, what do I actually do? So we do what's called spinal manipulation or adjustments. That's probably the biggest thing that people know chiropractors for. But beyond that, there's also the part of being able to get to a very clear diagnosis of what's actually wrong with someone. So I think many people, for example, don't actually know the actual phrasing of like what's the actual problem.
Yeah.
When you come to a chiropractor, typically you're going to end with a very clear understanding of what's actually happening in the body. I think that's quite a valuable piece of what we offer because you wouldn't want to go to have a problem for years and never actually know what it is, especially if it's a persistent thing. So being able to get a clear diagnosis is also quite a valuable thing that a good consultation will get you. So I guess if there's more questions, I guess you'll have to kind of shoot me the questions. I'm sure there will be some people that have some.
Yeah, sure. Some
questions.
I mean, later on, he'll tell you where you can find in terms of contacts and stuff like that. Hey guys, I hope you're still enjoying the episode. If you haven't yet, please like, subscribe, and do all the good YouTube stuff. But without wasting any time, let's get back to the video. So usually when people do something, they get into a profession, they practice it under one company or whatever hospital. And it ends there, right?
Yeah.
For you, you went a further step and you started you co-founded 2 companies, right?
Sure.
Which are Spinehealth and African
Chiropractic
Federation.
Okay. Yeah.
I thought it was a foundation. I thought the other one is for where you actually do the
chiropractic work, and the other one is So okay, before I get in trouble from anyone, I did not found the African Chiropractic Federation. I'm just the current president of the African Chiropractic Federation.
Okay.
Essentially, what we're doing is we're representing chiropractors across Africa, right? So we have so there's professional associations that each country has, and not every country has the same level of representation. So, for example, in Botswana, where I currently reside, we have about 10 chiropractors. I know 10 chiropractors. In other countries, it's similar. South Africa has hundreds of chiropractors. And there's various numbers of sorts. So there's different levels of lobbying that each country would need for assistance getting certain levels of legislation done, etc., etc. It's basically the behind the scenes support that chiropractors need to be able to serve the people that they serve.
Yeah.
The Spinehealth Africa side, which is another one, that's what I co-founded with my good friend, Dr. Kudzaya Janika. She's also a chiropractor from Zimbabwe, but she's based in New Zealand. Really cool because we're both from the same whole village in the states called Kutu, in Masvingo. And we both were living and practicing outside of our home countries, outside of Zimbabwe, basically. And we're just like, no, man, we need to do something. We need to do something to serve our people. And the way it came up was Kudzaya's grandmother both her grandmothers actually, from my mom and dad's side, came to her graduation in New Zealand for her chiropractic school graduation. And for the first time received chiropractic care. These are like old women, right? And they were blown away by how they felt, how they, function improved, etc., etc. And they're like, you have to come back home and provide this.
Yeah.
So that same year, she reached out to me. I hadn't even graduated yet. I was about to graduate the following year. That year, actually, I was about to graduate 2017. 2017, I was finishing 2018, my graduation. And it was quite a wild time because we were just kids, man. We were just straight out of school, and we set up this whole NGO, registered it, did our own fundraising. We weren't even sure because, imagine going to your own home community, right? And you're trying to communicate this thing. Even to explain chiropractic in English is hard for a lot of people around us. Like, what is that? Like, they've seen stuff on 2.5 Men, they've seen stuff on TikTok. They're like, what is this thing? And now imagine trying to take that thing home to your rural village or your grandparents. And you're trying to explain that even further. You're just like, so we weren't even sure who's going to come or whatever. So we printed being ambitious, let's just print 100 forms, intake forms for patients. Let's just see, we got our practicing licenses to do it in Zim, like a short-term practicing license to do it. Did all the paperwork stuff, set it up, went to Kudzaya's grandmother's house to start, and we were blown away. We saw 5 times the amount of people that we saw 500 people basically.
Yeah. It
was quite ridiculous. And it just showed that, to be fair, we need a sustainable way to provide care. You can't just do mission trips. So, because spinal disorders are not something that you can just quickly fix. You need ongoing care. But I think for us, it was the beginning of the idea of spine care for people that can't afford it. or people that are in low income settings or in rural settings where there aren't a lot of health professionals anyways. So, I mean, this is, we've been founded in 2017. So this is like, our 6th year running. It's evolved quite a lot. We do a lot more than just the mission trips. But I think the idea really is we are not physically based in our home country right now, but we have our hearts there. And, we're being kind of nepotistic about it. We're literally starting because we're from the same village. So literally doing it in our own backyard, like our family,
which is good.
Our family roots. Literally, even every time we do the trip, we go to Kudzai's grandmother's place, which, family, literal family. So Spinehealth Africa is really close to my heart and really close to our heart because it's my way of staying connected to my roots and also bringing the gifts of what I've gained, to my people. So, yeah.
So why have you ever invited me to Zim?
Here we go again. Okay. Yeah. For everyone to know, in front of all the cameras and everything, Musa, I'm inviting you.
Okay. Now we know.
Now it's official. You're invited.
Yeah.
You're invited. Yeah.
Yeah. So you are also a writer, right?
Sure.
And I don't always get to read them, but whenever I do get to read them, they're very beautiful.
Sure.
You have something called the Heart Inscriber.
Sure.
Man, I used to read it. But I used to read it from when we were in varsity. I still read it, but not as much.
Yeah.
Can you tell me more about that? What actually made you to start reading, start writing?
Yeah. I think as a kid, I always loved to write. My primary school, best thing to do was the creative writing stuff, and it was just something that I was good at and I was really enjoying. And then I chose in high school the path of sciences over arts. Because in Zim we do this thing called the O levels and A levels, ordinary levels, advanced. The last 2 years of high school, you have to pick only 3 subjects. And I chose maths, biology, and chemistry, and I left English and English literature to the side. And for me, that was hard because a part of me felt like I still want to write. I still want to not just write about, spine care, musculoskeletal care, healthcare, which I do write about, but I felt like there's other things that I have that I want to talk about. Yeah. And the outlet that I found was a friend of mine in Zim. I think even the gender gap here again, I think such a significant time. He introduced me to blogging through WordPress. And it took me I think I only started in 2013, but he basically showed me how to do it, how to set it up. And he had been blogging for some time. And I was like, this might be a thing. And it basically started as just like an outlet of just there's more stuff that I care about than the work I get to do every day or the stuff I get at that time I was studying. And it's still to this day an avenue for me to express what that other side is there. But I think now more specifically what it has become, it's a space of reflecting on life. So let me give you an example. I remember just being disappointed by, for example, how healthcare is provided in my set in Africa, whatever. So basically, a lot of people that need care don't get access to care, and there was no one to talk to about these things. And the only language, in my context, there was no kind of way to express it. I just had to do my job. But the blog for me helped me process my kind of discontent with it and be able to give it language in a way that could make sense to other people. So, for example, I think the blog is called "Who is Good Healthcare For?" If you find it on my the website, that blog alone, I think I've used that poem that I wrote so many times to talk about the work that I actually do now. That I realized that it's actually like a mirror showing me oh, this is what you're feeling. Oh, this is what it was like a processing space. So it wasn't just expressing anymore. It was more just like a space to actually make sense of everything else that's going on. you know. So even if no one else reads it, and it's great because I mean, it's people have recognized it, and like, as you said, like people in my life were reading it.
It's good. It's really good.
Yeah.
It's really good.
But for me, it was also important to be able to reflect and clarify my feelings and thoughts on things. So, yeah, that was.
So it's like basically it's like a platform where you can express yourself.
Yeah.
No. So have you written anything else?
Oh yeah. Okay, I like these questions. Very leading questions. Like, okay, yes, we did write a book in 2020 during the pandemic. Me and two other friends in Botswana. The book is called 20, a reflection. It was basically about the year 2020 and all the madness and drama and trauma and once in a lifetime experience of being in a pandemic. The book is on Amazon, I guess, if people are interested in it. But it's essentially a collection of pieces that me and two other writers wrote, just reflecting on all that was in 2020. And to be fair, it was we call it lightning in a bottle. So for example, if lightning was to strike and you had the chance to capture it and put it in a bottle and be able to like look back, wow, this is a crazy phenomenon, like this thing that's just happened. And I felt like the year 2020, the experience of
just being locked
in, not being able to see anyone's full face anymore, not being able to trust your neighbors anymore.
I forgot.
Not being able, so many physical, it was a strange time to be alive, and I just felt like we needed to record it in whatever way we could, and that was we published the book in 3 months. It was a crazy writing effort. We did it in 3 months.
Sorry about that. I got a call, so this video got interrupted a little bit, but
love the transparency.
It's a podcast.
Yeah,
I'll be honest.
Bring down that fourth wall.
Disturb the recording. But as I was saying, I'm very impressed with people who can sit down and put their thoughts onto a paper and describe it so well for other people to understand. Because you can put things down on a paper and people might not understand it or relate or feel something. So just that ability. Is it something that you've always had or?
Wow, that's a good question. Thanks for that compliment. I really appreciate that. I don't know. I don't know when I started writing. I just always felt it's like a journey. Like when you start writing something and then it's like you don't know where it ends up. I actually write about writing a lot, it's a very strange phenomenon, but it actually is so interesting when an idea comes to you and then by the time it's finished on the paper, it looks so different than how you had it in your head, but it also makes so much more sense now. So to your point, I do think that the beauty of writing is the ability to show people something that maybe it's not even just your own thought. I think it's also reflecting on something that other people can also point to and be like, oh, I can see that. I can relate to that. I think writing is essentially a gift of language to the writer as well as to the people that are reading it, to be like, oh, that's an experience of the heart. Just a kind of quick side note, you didn't ask me this. The reason why it's called Heart Inscriber, two things. Number one, there's a scripture, Psalm 145. It basically talks about, basically the psalm is actually a wedding psalm. It's basically talking about a psalm, someone singing, saying, I'm writing this kind of song for a king. But the opening line says that my tongue is the pen of a ready writer. And then, my writing is something beautiful for the king. So essentially it's like a hope that my pen is like a pen writing on people's hearts, inscribing something on people's hearts. And then the second piece of it is my mom actually used this scripture in a way of encouraging me, because I used to do MCing at my youth group. And I remember the first time I did MCing, I was so nervous. And she was like, no, your tongue is a pen of a ready writer. So she's like, going to be a good communicator. She was basically encouraging me to be a good communicator. Some reason the MCing thing kind of fell away, but I don't really talk much in public anymore. I mean, sometimes, but not as much as you think. But sorry, I'm not going. This is a long tangent. But essentially, the idea is the pen for me. It feels like a much more natural way to communicate.
You should MC more, man. You know how to communicate, speak in a very concise and very understandable way. You're straight to the point. There's no, you don't take shortcuts, or you don't
or side pass tangents.
No.
There's no one can
but
follow.
those tangents are they add to the story.
Sure.
So it would be nice. So what are your plans? So now with the foundation, being a chiropractor, newly married, what's your plan with all of that?
I really don't know how to answer that sometimes, because I think one thing that the pandemic showed us all is that plans are always shaky. Like there's no way to really be sure. I heard this quote the other day. Despite the height of all human endeavor and planning and technology and everything, we still don't know what the world is going to look like by tomorrow after dinner. Like there's no way.
Sure.
There's no way. Like you can know for sure tomorrow 9 p.m. this is what the world's gonna look like. Something could happen between now and tomorrow 9 p.m. that could completely alter the fabric of the world as you personally know it, or as the world all knows it. So I think,
by the way, Mufudzi, that's Mufudzi for you. He's very deep sometimes. You have to sit and listen and take notes, because he's very deep. Anyways, you say
I don't know. I of course I have plans. Of course I want to see chiropractic practice in more places in Africa. Of course I want to see more people get the healthcare that they need. I'd like to see more people studying chiropractic. I'd like to see a lot of things, and I'm in a position where I have some influence, able to do something about some of these issues. But I do also know that you don't get to choose your place in history, and sometimes all you're ever really going to be able to do is sow a seed that someone else might reap one day, and some of us also are getting to reap the harvest of things that other people have done. So all I can say is I know what I can do, or I know what my next steps are, which is all those things I just mentioned. And then the outcome is really, it's not really up to me. We'll see what comes of all these things.
I always say you shouldn't worry about the outcomes. Just do the best that you can, and work with what you can and plan and hope. But we can never really know. But it's not a good way to live in the, I'm not gonna plan because might get hit by But anyways, man, you got a flight to catch, so let me not make you lose your having to buy another ticket.
So
anyway, thanks for coming, bro. Really appreciate you. And for anyone who might have any more questions, where can they find you?
Best place is LinkedIn. Just look for my name, Mufudzi Chihambakwe. That's most likely where you're gonna get a response from.
Okay, I'll put it on the description, and you'll just follow that and check him out. But anyways, guys, tribe leader Don is out.